There's a lot of work going on inside the garages with the Winston Cup teams. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside Winston Cup Racing. Today, we're in Harrisburg, North Carolina at the Stavola Brothers race shops. This is where they build and maintain the Snickers cars that Rick Wilson drives in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. This team is switching from Buick to Ford for 1992, so they have a lot of work to do. They're building some new cars and just switching sheet metal on others. We have a lot of interesting things for you in this half hour of Inside Winston Cup Racing, and here's what's coming up.
The departure of Banquet Frozen Foods has left Travis Carter and crew out in the cold. But despite the rumors that he has closed his shop, Travis Carter Racing is gearing up for 1992.
The second half of the 1991 Winston Cup season was highlighted by Jarrett's jubilation, Gant's magic, Jeff's gas mileage, Mark's misfortune, and climaxed with Dale Earnhardt's second straight Winston Cup championship.
And we'll start our trip down the road to Daytona. We'll follow three teams and find out what it takes to do well in Winston Cup's crown jewel, the Daytona 500.
Inside Winston Cup Racing is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. By Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Ektar Film from Kodak. For advanced photographers, the genius is in the details.
All of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Ford trucks, the best ever red. Ford trucks.
This year, we're introducing more new ideas than any other truck company. A newly designed Ford full-size pickup. All new full-size vans. And don't forget our phenomenal new success story, Explorer. Now, the word truck has been redefined. Who redefined it? Ford.
More people are driving the best-built, best-selling American trucks than ever before.
This baby is going to have a very special year of first steps, first words, first smiles. And none of these firsts will ever happen again. Now, if you were this baby's parents, which film would you choose?
True colors.
No other film in the world gives you truer color than Kodak Gold film.
Minolta introduces the world's only true autofocus binoculars. When you hold the AF button down, you hold continuous focus and never miss a second of the action. The world's only true autofocus binoculars.
Only from the mind of Minolta.
Stand by for Be a Star.
See tomorrow's superstars today on Be a Star. Weeknights at 7:30 Eastern on TNN.
Travis Carter has been around the sport of auto racing for a long time and has been one of the most successful crew chiefs in the business. But his lifelong dream was to have his own team. He got that opportunity in 1990. He hired Butch Miller as the driver, and things went along pretty well for him. He continued in 1991 with Jimmy Spencer as the driver, and he thought they were building the team to the height that he wanted it to be. But then near the end of the season, his sponsor pulled out, and he has not found another one as yet. Randy Pemberton had an opportunity recently to sit down and talk with Travis.
Travis Carter Racing, along with driver Jimmy Spencer, showed signs of potential in 1991, nearly recording victories in the Valleydale 500 at Bristol and the first Union 400 at North Wilkesboro, where they finished third after leading in the closing laps. And once again in the Miller 400 at Pocono, when Jimmy was flagged as the leader during a rainstorm that had potential to put the race in the record books. But those races alone were not enough to bring back their Banquet sponsorship support for 1992. And with only 8 weeks remaining until Speed Weeks, Carter is continuously searching for support.
basically what we've got at our disposal, we got some good packets put together about marketing plan concepts and our team information, and then we got a videotape made that we can use.
Over the past few seasons in Winston Cup racing, Travis Carter has certainly had his ups and downs. And once again, his back is against the wall. But through it all, Travis Carter's belief in what Winston Cup racing can do for a corporate sponsor has never wavered. Travis Carter will do whatever it takes.
What do you think about the economy and NASCAR as a whole, where it fits in as it relates to teams? I mean, thinking about it, there are about 5 teams that run competitively that don't have anything at this particular time right after Atlanta.
Randy, you know, through this system of attendance records, marketing strategies, polling the fans and so on and so forth, any company can properly established can measure. They can actually measure the results of what they're doing here. And in so many advertising programs, Randy, they cannot actually measure what they're doing. They put it on television. It's like shooting a shotgun. You don't really know where it's going. You know, and a lot of it goes on network television. Well, so many people watch cable television anymore. But this business is targeted event marketing. They know when every race runs. If it's on cable, a lot of people watch it. Even at the few network races, a lot of people watch that. But these companies can measure what they're doing. They can measure success, they can measure incremental sales, they can measure increased volumes. There's so many opportunities to tie in with these big race events with retail outlets. I mean, opportunities are endless, but people just, this concept is not totally new, but in this realm, it's relatively new. You know, Banquet kind of helped establish this thing. I mean, they had an excellent program going, and basically what we're trying to do is continue that concept with a new company.
Planters Peanuts was an associate sponsor on the Chevrolets driven by Spencer in 1991, and they plan to remain in 1992. But without a major sponsor, it will be difficult for Carter's cars to be a factor at the finish.
It's not too late for corporate budgets at this particular time. It's still a possibility.
Some of the companies naturally are budgeted not on a fiscal calendar, not on a regular calendar year, but on a fiscal year that may run from October to September, somewhere in that respect. We're talking to some people who budgets would start in January. So yes, there's some opportunities to find people that have money that hasn't been committed already, and those are the people we're working on right now.
Amidst the rumors that the shop may soon close its doors, Travis Carter continues to try to close a deal as the team prepares for the season's opening Daytona 500.
We really made a decision. We're going to pull every string possible, do everything we can do to keep this team together, keep these people together, get this thing through the winter. Within a week from now, I think there are going to be some stronger indications of possible sponsors or the direction that things are going to go. Given that, if we have to, we'll gamble that we're going to get a sponsor, and we'll do what is necessary to keep this thing alive till February. And that's a decision we've made. And so we have every intention of doing that.
So would that include you're going to go ahead and test? And
we're going to go ahead and prepare for our testing. We may miss the first series of testing, but we'll be prepared for the second series of testing. And you got to put a lot of faith in things, and I have a lot of faith that things are going to work out. They always have. Sometimes you don't see it right till the end, and sometimes it doesn't come around to the end. But if you believe and have the faith that things are going to work out, it'll work out.
Well, let's hope things work out soon for Travis Carter. We need to take a short break. Still to come on this edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing, we'll take a look at the second part of the 1991 season. Stay with us.
There is still time to order your limited edition Winston Cup yearbook for Christmas and be entered into the Book a Ride Sweepstakes 2, where you could win one of the greatest race fan Christmas gifts of all time. A new one-of-a-kind NASCAR pickup loaded with special options, or win an all-expense-paid trip to Charlotte to see the Coca-Cola 600, plus other great prizes. But time's running out. Call 800-922-9287 now to order the Winston Cup yearbook and automatically be entered into the sweepstakes. Remember, you cannot enter the sweepstakes by phone unless ordering. To enter without a purchase, send your name, address, and phone number on a postcard to this address. You'll love this bonded leather coffee table collector's edition featuring great color photography of the entire season. Hurry, only a limited number are available to the public, and at just $29.95, they'll sell out fast. Order early and qualify for the 5 weekly drawings to win an IWCR jacket. Final entry deadline extended to December 16th. and you must be 21 or older to win. Give your race fan the gift of a lifetime. Order your copy of the Winston Cup Yearbook today.
Congratulations to this week's winner. Don't miss your chance to be our next winner as Book a Ride Sweepstakes 2 continues.
Where can you go on Goodyear Wrangler radials? So where can you go on Goodyear Wrangler radials? Just about anywhere you want. Put on a set of Goodyear Wrangler radials, and you'll know why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Like you, your car has a heart, the engine. And like the human heart, it has valves where deposits can form. The right diet can make a difference. Fill up with Mobile Super Unleaded Plus. Its advanced detergent formula can unclog vital engine parts. For power and performance, get Mobile Super Unleaded Plus and drive your engine clean.
Hi.
Hi. Dave Thomas travels the world looking for new food ideas for Wendy's.
Boy, I sure could go for a Big Dave's Deluxe.
A quarter pound of fresh beef cheese, 3 strips of bacon, sauteed onions, the works only at Wendy's.
Got ketchup?
This baby is going to have a very special year of first steps, first words, first smiles. And none of these firsts will ever happen again. Now, if you were this baby's parents, which film would you choose?
True colors.
No other film in the world gives you truer color than Kodak Gold film.
Saturday on TNN Motorsports, while Kenny Wallace tried to keep his points, Chuck Bound's crew tried to stay calm. But against the odds, neither took the checkered flag. Chevy Dealers of New England 250, Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on TNN Motorsports.
This is TNN, the Nashville Network.
Coming up on TNN Motorsports Magazine, live at 11:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, we'll have the highlights of the Winston Cup banquet in New York, along with the latest news. Plus, we'll review the CART IndyCar season. Be sure to join us here on TNN for America's most complete auto racing coverage.
TNN Motorsports Magazine, first edition, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Sports Sunday on TNN.
After the controversy of the pit rules in the first half of the 1991 Winston Cup season, things got down to really some good, hard racing in the second half of the season. So now we take a look at what all happened during that time.
The second half of the 1991 Winston Cup season started off with the Miller Genuine Draft 500 at Pocono. Dale Earnhardt continued as the points leader, but he, along with 12 other drivers, were collected in this crash caused when Hut Strickland appeared to be nudged by Ernie Irvan in turn 3. Rusty Wallace was fortunate enough to miss the melee, and he went on to claim his only win of the second half. The Ford contingent of Bill Elliott, Mark Martin, Sterling Marlin, and Davey Allison admittedly tried to gang up on Dale Earnhardt and his GM Goodwrench Chevrolet in the closing laps of the Die Hard 500 in Talladega. Nonetheless, Earnhardt emerged with win number 3 of 1991. The August 11th butt at the Glen will be remembered not for what was won, but for what was lost. As on lap 5, veteran driver J.D. McDuffie lost control of his Pontiac in turn 5. The crash would claim his life. The race concluded after a highly contested battle for the lead in the closing laps between Ernie Irvan and Mark Martin. Ernie held on for the win, one which he dedicated to J.D. The Champion 400 just may have been the most exciting race of the second half. Continuous 3-wide racing kept the crowd on its feet all afternoon, and there wasn't a person sitting on the final lap as Dale Jarrett rubbed and bumped with Davey Allison as the two dove to the finish line. The result was Jarrett by inches for his first career Winston Cup win. The Rock'em Sock'em Bristol International Raceway had a bang-up affair under the lights in the Bud 500, and the last man standing was Alan Kowicki as he claimed his only victory of the season. The September swing began at Darlington with the Heinz Southern 500. And little did anyone know that the next 4 races would turn into the private domain of Harry Gant. Gant gathered up his first of 4 wins in a row, outdistancing Ernie Irvin to the finish. Next on Mr. September's list was the Miller Genuine Draft 400. Gant drove off into the night during the first race ever held under the stars on the 3/4-mile oval. Gant then dominated Dover after much of the competition was caught up in a crash off of turn 2. The magic continued at Martinsville. But this time, Harry would have to come back after crashing his Skoll Oldsmobile in turns 3 and 4. Gant charged through the field in the latter laps to register his 5th win of 1991. It looked as if he might make it 5 in a row at North Wilkesboro after claiming the pole position. Harry once again had the field covered until a brake line broke in the final laps, handing the win to eventual Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt, who was Earnhardt's 4th of the year. Mark Martin manhandled the field in the Mellow Yellow 500 until his engine let go with just over 100 laps remaining. Earnhardt followed him to the garage area, and the race came down to gas mileage, and Jeff Bodine got over 120 miles out of his final tank. It was just enough to take him to victory lane, his only time of the season. In the third to the final race on the schedule, Davey Allison picked up his 4th victory of the year over Gant in the AC Delco 500 at Rockingham. 2 weeks later, he turned around and pocketed the Pyro 500 in Phoenix, pushing him past Rudd into 2nd place in the point standings. Dale Earnhardt had his 5th Winston Cup championship in the bag when he took the green flag in the Hardee's 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Davey Allison ran strong early, but he hit the sidelines, giving Rudd 2nd place in the point standings. Allison would finish 3rd. But it was Mark Martin who dominated the 500-mile drive, finding the victory circle for his one and only win of 1991.
With all the changes being made during the winter, such as the Snickers team changing from Buicks to Fords and a lot of other things going on, we can assure you that the 1992 season will be at least as interesting. We need to take a short break. As we leave you for this break, here's this week's Kodak Speedway Snapshot.
This week's Kodak Speedway Snapshot is brought to you by Ektar Film from Kodak. For advanced photographers, the genius is in the details.
Sterling Marlin had some rough moments during the 1991 season, but through it all, he never lost his sense of humor. In Rockingham this spring, the popular driver was the target of a good-natured practical joke, orchestrated by Budweiser crew chief Tim Brewer.
Attention, advanced photographers. You're witnessing something never possible before. The miracle of microfine grain. For the sharpest detail in color print film, Kodak presents Ektar Film.
How do you change the best-built full-size pickup in America? You painstakingly reshape the exterior until it's more refined. Make the instrument panel more user-friendly. The available power controls easier to reach. And you redesign the interior for unexpected comfort.
The best never rest.
How did we change the full-size Ford pickup? Very carefully. More people are driving the best-built, best-selling American trucks than ever before. Dave Thomas travels the world looking for new food ideas. For Wendy's.
I could really go for a Big Dave's Deluxe.
A 1/4 pound of fresh beef, cheese, 3 strips of bacon, sauteed onions, the works, only at Wendy's.
Is this what I ordered?
To demonstrate the superior color of new Kodak Gold 400 film, just open a box. It has the richest, most vivid color available in a high-speed film. New Kodak Gold 400. Fast film. True colors.
There's magic in the music on TNN. Christmas Eve and the riders in the sky are worried.
I'm worried. Me too.
The Tumbleweed Valley Children's Christmas Chorale and Miss Marmer stranded by a blizzard.
We gotta do something.
So riders do what they do best.
Put on a show.
It's a whimsical holiday fantasy for everyone. Christmas the Cowboy Way. Friday, 8 and 11 p.m. Eastern on TNN. It's magic.
Today's hottest stars and shows are on TNN, the #1 source for country music, entertainment, and information. If you'd like to know about our programs or guest lineups, call TNN Viewer Services, 615-883-7000. For tickets, call Opryland Customer Service, 615-889-6611.
Gary Nelson is a former Winston Cup crew chief well known for testing the legal limits of the NASCAR rule book. But Nelson's new role as technical director will now have him patrolling the garage area, enforcing the rigid rules of Winston Cup racing.
Robin Pemberton replaces Gary Nelson as crew chief on the Mellow Yellow Pontiac, reuniting him with Kyle Petty. Robin learned Winston Cup racing in his days with the King, but shares his racing roots with three brothers in a small track in upstate New York.
And we'll have another in our series of races to remember in our NASCAR flashback next week.
Now, this is a brand new race car. Doesn't look much like a Ford now, but it will as they put the sheet metal on it. Now, this team and most of the others are getting ready for Daytona. We have a special series for you this winter, the Road to Daytona. We're going to follow three teams, Davey Allison, Rusty Wallace, and the new Joe Gibbs team that Dale Jarrett will drive for. And that's where Dan Kenyon is to kick off our first part of the series.
Now, the first thing Joe Gibbs Racing and Dale Jarrett had to do was find a facility to work out of. They chose this warehouse here, which is only a couple miles from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Let's go inside, talk to crew chief Jimmy Makar, and see what's going on. All right, well, first, Jimmy, you told me you came over here in August. What are some of the things that you personally have had to do to get the team rolling?
Well, one of the things was naturally hire people, and you can't have a race team without good people. And I spent most of the time early on in this project interviewing folks and talking to different people about jobs. That consumed probably a month of my time right off the bat. Along with that, we also had to work on the building. When we got this building, it wasn't a race shop, it was a warehouse. So we had to go ahead and make some plans and draw up some blueprints of what we wanted to do inside, and then have the construction done. So those two things were the two biggest things that we had to do.
What are your objectives going to be as far as going to testing and getting all that stuff taken care of?
Well, before the season starts at Daytona, we'd like to have tested all the cars we have built, which will be 5 by that time, possibly 6. We'd like to have tested those cars, know they are very, competitive and capable of running well, and there's no bugs in them. After that, we'll be ready for the season.
Now, Dale Jarrett and his Interstate Batteries team are still waiting to take their first green flag, but Randy Pemberton is with a team who had a viable shot at the championship last year.
Well, Dan, I'm also in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Yates Racing Stables. This is where they build the Texaco Haviland Star Ford Thunderbirds that Davey Allison drives on the Winston Cup circuit. They had a successful season in '91, winning 5 races, not to mention the Winston All-Star race, and they finished 3rd in the Winston Cup championship chase. Right now, the team is busy rebuilding and building cars for the 1992 season. And of course, Larry McReynolds, you were part of the success that made this team in 1991, but that season is over with. Currently, the team is working on cars for 92. What do you face going into Speed Weeks 92 as we stand 8 or 9 weeks away?
Well, much to a lot of, especially race fans' surprise, our toughest months is the winter months from Atlanta to Daytona. We'll be working 6-day weeks, a lot of times 7-day weeks, getting ready for Daytona. We mainly put our whole month of December on Speed Weeks, working on Daytona and Talladega stuff. But when January rolls around, we'll still be focusing on Daytona, but we'll also be thinking about Richmond, Rockingham, Atlanta, because it'll be falling right after Daytona.
But I also understand that all the teams are under strict rules at this particular time to get the cars to fit templates. Where do you stand as far as that goes?
Well, NASCAR's making a valiant effort to keep these cars to stock configuration. We're supporting that effort, but again, in the same token, we had a lot of race cars ready, and like this car here, one of the Speedway cars, it was in primer ready to go test. Now we got to cut some bodies off of it to get it back to NASCAR's template configuration. So we got a lot of work to do, trying to get 3 cars ready for Daytona to be testing in December and January, and it's going to be a long winter.
Well, I'm sure you guys will be successful getting these cars ready. Bill Weber is up at the 2 shop, the Rusty Wallace shop with Roger Penske's team. Bill, how's it going up there as far as the preparation for the 1992 Speed Weeks goes?
Randy, things aren't quite as up in the air here as they may appear. This is the Penske Racing Shop, where crew chief Eddie Dickerson and company are preparing the 1992 Miller Genuine Draft Pontiacs that Rusty Wallace will drive. Now, Eddie, we just heard from Larry McReynolds at the Haviland shop about the template situation. How do you guys stand on that for next year?
Well, the templates on the Pontiac haven't changed a whole lot. Basically, what NASCAR gave us, such as they did all the cars, it's kind of going to even the odds up a little bit. They gave us a little more room over the air cleaner, 3/4 of an inch. It'll just enable us to put a little more intake on our cars. We're given a crankshaft height of 10 inches, and the attitude we run the car, that'll just give us a little more room for our motor.
Now, Eddie, one of the most critical components of your off-season is the calendar. Tell us about your test schedule.
As you can see, it's a little busy here. We'll be in the wind tunnel in Detroit, Michigan on the 4th, and we got down where the truck leaves here. And we get a couple days, and we get back. We get another car ready. Our Daytona car will be in Daytona for 3 days here, testing the 12th, 13th, and 14th. Get a couple days break, and we're back at Daytona again with another car. And we get down here to the 25th. I think we may take that day off. That's our Christmas day. And we're back at Talladega at the end of the month for 2 days. And then we're right back in Daytona. This is our month of January. We have a 4-day test the second week in January, and again in the 4th week there for 4 more days. And we put a little cushion here to go back to Talladega if we need to with all of our stuff we're learning on the restrictor plate motors. We're going to take one more stab at it before we're down at Daytona on about the 8th of February.
Hey, Eddie, if you get a chance today, you think you can get them bathrooms cleaned up?
A couple of weeks ago, our mailbox question dealt with who was the youngest Winston Cup champion ever. Well, our answer was that Richard Petty was at age 27. We were wrong. Some very alert fans out there have called our attention to the fact that Bill Rexford, who won the very first NASCAR Winston Cup championship, was the youngest at age 23. We thank you for keeping us on our toes. Well, our time's up for today. Hope that you enjoyed the show, and you'll be sure to be with us here next week on TNN.
Inside Winston Cup Racing has been brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Winning the world over with 1992 trucks that are built for tough. By Miller Genuine Draft, cold filtered for real draft taste. So get out of the old, get into the cold. And by Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. Transportation for Inside Winston Cup Racing provided by Fleetwood Enterprises, makers of a full line of excellent recreational vehicles. Inside Winston Cup Racing clothing provided in part by Sports Image Incorporated, suppliers of quality racing apparel. Attention, current members of the Inside Winston Cup Racing Sports Club. Watch your mail this month for a free sample issue of Speedway Scene, the racer's voice by choice. And for subscription information to Speedway Scene, call 800-45-RACIN'.